Dermot strolled past a stack of logs when he suddenly thought he heard something unusual. A sound distinct from the natural noises of the surroundings. Intrigued, he focused his attention on the log pile, only to discover that it was no ordinary stack, immobile and filled with the need for assistance. Dermot found himself in a remote location, rendering any attempt to call for help futile. With no settlements nearby, his only choice was to examine the peculiar log pile. Dermot, an avid hiker with a deep appreciation for the scent of pine and the earthy crunch beneath his boots, cherished every opportunity to venture into the wilderness. Little did he know that one Sunday morning, much like any other, would lead him to an unexpected discovery. Dermot hailed from Riverwood, a close-knit town where everyone knew each other by name, and neighbors readily offered help. 7 months prior to Dermot's fateful walk, the town was shaken by a distressing event. 11-year-old Alice, a resident of Riverwood, vanished after setting out to visit a friend. The only trace left behind was her abandoned pink bicycle on the roadside. This incident cast a lingering shadow over the town, causing deep concern and grief for Alice's parents. Speculation about her getting lost in the small town spread quickly, prompting a collective effort by the community to search for her. Despite the involvement of around 100 locals and the assistance of local police, no signs of Alice were found when the search began. From her house meeting with the parents, the group prepared for an extended journey through the night, each member fervently hoping and praying for Alice's safety, determined to persist until they found her. The 100-strong team fanned out in all directions. They combed the fields near the town and scoured both sides of the road leading into town, calling out Alice's name in unison. Despite their collective efforts, Dermot couldn't shake a sense of unease. The search yielded no clues about what might have happened to Alice, but at least there were no indicators suggesting harm either. Striving to remain composed, the group continued their quest, attempting to stay optimistic. A resident and family friend of Alice shared the emotional toll, describing the stress of tirelessly walking back and forth, calling her name as days passed. As time went on, people became increasingly disheartened, and the search evolved into a disorganized assembly wandering aimlessly, still calling out her name after a week. The number of flashlights dwindled, and many volunteers returned to their normal lives. Those who persevered found it challenging to sustain the search, grappling with the daunting reality that Alice could be anywhere. The situation resembled the proverbial needle in a haystack, with no clear direction. Suddenly, the sound of chopping cut through the ambient noise. The police joined the search, deploying helicopters with heat-sensitive cameras to scan thick woods, while ground units utilized dogs to track Alice's scent. Despite advanced police assistance, weeks passed with no sign of Alice. The days seamlessly transitioned into enduring weeks, with hope fading for most. The burning question persisted in everyone's mind: where was Alice? It seemed as though she had vanished into thin air. Dermot speculated that she might be miles away, but as an experienced hiker, he believed his expertise could be most useful in navigating the challenging mountain terrain surrounding their town. While helicopters and dogs proved unsuccessful in locating Alice, Dermot felt frustrated, like he was throwing sand against the wall and hoping it would stick. Despite this, he felt compelled to take action. Unbeknownst to Dermot, his decision would soon turn the tide in this mysterious case. 7 months had passed since Alice's disappearance, and the 11-year-old girl remained unfound. While some had moved on with their lives, Dermot persisted. Every hike became an opportunity to search new areas of the wilderness for her. Armed with his water bottle and hiking gear, Dermot set out into the mountains once more, unaware that this time would bring a profound change. After hiking for just under an hour, Dermot started breaking a sweat, feeling the burn of a workout in his muscles. Despite the physical challenge, he pressed on, relishing the breathtaking scenery and inhaling the fresh air. Closing his eyes, he smiled as he took a deep breath, savoring the scent of wild grass and oak trees. Suddenly, his eyes shot open, and the smile vanished from his face. Holding his breath, Dermot identified a faint but distinct sound, a voice. Uncertain of its origin, he thought of Alice, and the sound made his blood run cold. Shouting into the empty space around him, he called out, "Alice!" But there was no response. The voice abruptly ceased, leaving Dermot bewildered. Cautioning forward, he surveyed his surroundings with heightened alertness. Was this a prank? Or had it been a figment of his imagination? The uncertainty made him feel queasy, while a part of him wanted to charge ahead and call out for Alice. He hesitated, aware that he had no clue about the situation he was walking into. Suddenly, the same spine-chilling voice returned, but this time it was closer. Dermot found himself frozen in place again, steadying his breathing to pinpoint the source of the sound. As quickly as it had appeared, the voice stopped. Dermot's heart raced as he sprinted forward, eventually coming across a random pile of logs. Intrigued, he approached the logs for a closer inspection. Upon reaching the pile, his eyes widened in shock. The sight before him made him want to run and scream for help. But the remote hills offered no guarantee that anyone would hear. Trembling, Dermot quickly grabbed his phone and dialed 911. Desperately hoping it wasn't too late. As he paced nervously, awaiting help, Dermot grappled with the unfamiliarity of the situation. He knew he had to avoid tampering with any potential evidence and stay attuned for the reappearance of the voice. Now closer than ever, the police rushed to the mountains after Dermot frantically relayed what he had seen on the phone. "Come quick. Now. Please," Dermot pleaded with the cops, his voice breaking. In under 30 minutes, they arrived to uncover the mystery Dermot had stumbled upon. Finally, the police arrived. As they reached the hills, they were puzzled to find Dermot visibly distressed and a seemingly ordinary pile of logs. Confused, one officer sternly questioned, "What exactly is going on here?" Dermot, tears streaming down his cheeks, led the officer to the unsettling pile of logs. "Just look over there," he said, pointing to the incongruous stack approaching the logs. The officer braced himself for what he might find, a sense of unease creeping up his spine with each step. As he neared the logs, he saw what Dermot had seen, and a sickening feeling overcame him. The seemingly ordinary pile of logs was, in fact, a secret hideaway. The officer realized that the peculiar lines on the logs were actually windows. A terrible feeling gnawed at the pit of his stomach as he comprehended that this was more than just a pile of logs. Dermot and the officer cautiously peered inside, only to be horrified at the discovery of a small hidden cabin. Suddenly, shockingly, a young girl emerged from the corner of the room, startled. The officer yelped in surprise. Upon closer inspection, he recognized the girl. Rendered speechless, he was at a loss for words. Dermot, in tears of relief, had a personal connection to the mysterious case of the missing 11-year-old girl named Alice, which was now finally progressing after 7 long months of despair. Alice was found. The officer, astonished at Dermot's discovery and perseverance, called for backup and ensured the little girl's safety. The question remained, what was she doing there? The additional police presence did provide a sense of security, but questions lingered. Was it too late? And were they still in danger? who owned the cabin that served as Alice's secret hideaway. More officers swiftly arrived at the scene and escorted the disoriented Alice to the station for questioning. During the interrogation, Alice revealed that a man had kidnapped her and confined her in the secret cabin. Despite the police's efforts to piece together the events, they found no leads. Alice was safely returned home. But the case remained open, half a world away. Another child had gone missing. But unlike Alice, he was only found 31 years later. This marked the moment Lynette had been waiting for, hoping for truth and answers. No mother should endure what Lynette experienced. And she had spent decades yearning for this resolution, arriving at Connecticut Airport, hundreds of miles away from her home in Canada. Lynette stepped into the pickup area, anticipating answers about her son's disappearance. 31 years had passed since that warm summer day in June 1987 when Lynette went to pick up her son Jermaine from a dollar store on Islington Avenue in North Toronto. Jermaine was just a baby when Lynette and his father, Alan, decided to separate. Despite their separation, Jermaine remained a happy child with a smile and laugh that could light up a room. Lynette, excited to see him, had no idea what awaited her. Lynette had spent the day doing typical activities when child-free, grocery shopping, running errands, and the like. The reunion with her son at the dollar store was supposed to be a joyous occasion. But the events that followed would cast a shadow over her life for 3 decades. She went as far as purchasing Jermaine a toy, a fluffy plush lion adorned with big brown eyes. A perfect reflection of Jermaine's favorite. She was confident he would adore it. Little did she anticipate that her entire world was on the brink of collapse. Around 4 p.m. Lynette observed a joyous family across the street, cherishing each other's company. Strangely, the little boy on his father's shoulders resembled her own son. Lynette exchanged waves with the child before checking her watch. It was now 4:09. Where were they, with each passing minute? A dreadful feeling churned in Lynette's stomach. Her heart pounded in her chest. By 4:20 p.m., Alan and Jermaine had yet to appear. A surge of anxiety overwhelmed Lynette. She stumbled, dropping the carefully chosen toy for Jermaine, rushing into her car. Lynette dialed 911 and sped away, leaving behind a cloud of smoke and Jermaine's teddy bear. The silence engulfed her empty home, seated in her kitchen. Eyes sore, head throbbing. 48 hours had passed since she waited at the dollar store to give Jermaine his teddy bear. Yet now, she had neither her son nor the cherished toy. Months elapsed. And despite Toronto police's extensive search, Jermaine remained untraceable. As expected, Lynette was devastated. Slowly but surely, the months turned into years. And before she knew it, Lynette found herself commemorating what would have been Jermaine's 25th birthday in her desolate home. This couldn't possibly be the resolution, could it? Over the years, various agencies had made efforts to unravel the mystery of Jermaine's disappearance. But sadly, no leads emerged. Even the Missing Children Society of Canada, MCSC, became involved. Yet all that remained were memories in Lynette's mind and a few images of her little boy, refusing to surrender hope. Lynette took a significant step in 1989 by appearing in the Toronto Star to increase awareness. Suspicions lingered that Alan had abducted Jermaine and taken him to the United States. But concrete evidence was lacking. A turning point in this heart-wrenching case occurred across the border in the United States, where there was an equal commitment to uncovering the truth about Jermaine. His story became part of the Charlie Project, a database dedicated to publicizing missing person cases in the U.S. Unfortunately, this exposure did not yield any leads for the police amidst the darkness. One individual remained resolute in the quest to find Jermaine. Former policeman Ted Davis, who had been investigating for MCSC for 3 decades. made a promise to Lynette and her family. He pledged to do everything in his power to ensure Jermaine's safe return home, finally. In 2016, nearly 30 years after Jermaine's disappearance, a breakthrough occurred in the decades-old case. Ted Davis, who attended a conference alongside members of the Toronto Police and U.S. representatives, unknowingly sparked renewed interest in Jermaine's disappearance. By the end of summer 2018, investigators had contacted numerous acquaintances of Alan, Jermaine's father, unearthing fresh leads to pursue, having spoken to various individuals. Investigators hoped to extract vital information. Some suggested that Alan might have relocated 500 miles east of Toronto, residing in Connecticut. However, a breakthrough occurred when they engaged in conversation with one of Alan's closest friends. This crucial interaction provided a clue that would ultimately lead the police to Jermaine, reportedly. Alan had adopted a new identity, creating a new name and alias, Haley Randolph D'Souza. Armed with this information, the police knew they were on the brink of discovering what happened to Jermaine. They scoured official databases and social media, eventually finding a match: an elderly man living in Vernon, a town close to the Connecticut capital of Hartford. Could this be them? If so, did it mean Jermaine was alive, with the mystery on the verge of resolution? Investigators enlisted forensic experts to join the case. They scrutinized the driver's license photo on record for D'Souza's son. And by October 2018, the team confirmed what they had hoped for: D'Souza's son and Jermaine were likely the same person. However, catching Alan became the next challenge. Excitement filled the investigators as they finally had some answers. But they knew they had to act swiftly. An anonymous source revealed that Alan frequented the local KFC, where he was amicable with the staff and had a fondness for the food. Determined to bring Alan to justice, investigators set off to the KFC, ready to ensure he paid for his crimes before it was too late. But would that be the case today? A member of the Connecticut Police Department screams as they rush inside the KFC restaurant. The team scans the room in search of Alan, while startled and confused employees stand around. Eventually, they notice an elderly man sitting in the corner, who raises his hands, confirming he is the fugitive they're seeking. As Alan is handcuffed and led outside, a voice calls out, "Dad!" A middle-aged man with big brown eyes, reminiscent of Jermaine, walks around the corner. Unbeknownst to the son, the father and son duo had lived a life of lies for decades. Police suspect that back in 1986, Alan fled Toronto with Jermaine and traveled to the United States, sharing an apartment in Connecticut since 2004. After fleeing Canada, Alan managed to acquire fake documents, residing in New York, North Carolina, and eventually settling in Connecticut. While living in Vernon, Alan worked as a trucker and an engineer, while Jermaine worked for the state. Throughout his life, Jermaine had questions about his mother. His father told him she passed away during childbirth, but the details were ambiguous. Jermaine recalls seeing his friends being picked up from school by their mothers, an experience he never had. At the age of 33, the truth about his mother finally emerged, standing in court and weeping as his father's lies and deceitfulness were exposed. Jermaine sobbed into his tissue, grappling with the realization that his entire life had been a lie. The heart-wrenching news that Alan would not face charges for kidnapping but instead be extradited to Canada for further charges left Jermaine speechless as he stepped out of court, his mind swirling with thousands of questions. A sudden realization hit him: his mother was, in fact, alive. Lynette, overcome with emotion, received a call from Ted. They found Jermaine, her baby boy was alive and safe. After 31 years of waiting, Lynette was overwhelmed with joy and broke down in tears. Knowing she would finally see her baby boy again, Lynette had finally received the long-awaited news she had been hoping for over the last 3 decades. In 2018, during a press conference, she expressed, "Words can't express what I feel." The announcement was that her son was alive. They had found him. Overwhelmed with joy, Lynette immediately boarded a plane to Connecticut. Eager to reunite with her long-lost son, standing in the pickup area at the Connecticut airport, Lynette awaited the momentous reunion with her son after 30 years. Unable to contain her anticipation, she wondered, what will he look like? Suddenly, a tall, dark figure appeared, walking towards Lynette. Instantly recognizing the face and those big brown eyes, her heart stopped. It was her son, Jermaine, running towards each other with tears streaming down their faces. Lynette and Jermaine crashed into each other with a warm embrace. Overwhelmed with emotion, they cried and squeezed each other tight, refusing to let go. Lynette, through tears, shared, "I grabbed him and squeezed his head. I want to feel if he's real. I touched him and said, 'Oh my God. My baby.'" While Jermaine declined public interviews, Lynette mentioned a touching comment he made during their reunion, noting they shared the same eyes. After finally reuniting, Lynette and Jermaine spent quality time together, allowing Lynette to learn about her son's life over the last 31 years. Eager to cook him a home-cooked dinner, she was surprised to find out he's a vegetarian. Despite this, Jermaine made an exception, saying, "You know what? Mommy, cook the chicken. I'm gonna eat the chicken." As of now, it's unclear if Lynette will relocate to be closer to her long-lost son. Nevertheless, she assured reporters that she would do everything in her power to ensure they are never separated again. Lynette went on to share the heartbreaking details of the devastating actions taken by Alan many years ago. Reflecting on the past, she confessed, "I just thought it was sad for him to have done what he did. You never take a child from its parent, no matter what." Lynette acknowledged the difficult reality that her son had a whole other life before she re-entered the picture. "I have to respect the fact that he was a child. He didn't know anything," she explained. "So what was given to him? He had no choice but to live with that." Continuing, Lynette expressed her support for her son's decision to keep his current name, saying, "And so if the name that he has right now, he would like to respect that, then I'm gonna stand with him. However, calling my son by his new name may always be difficult for me. My son has always been Jermaine. So yes, that sticks for me," she explained during a news conference. Lynette took a moment to express gratitude to everyone involved in the case, giving special thanks to the individuals who never gave up the search for her missing boy. She specifically mentioned the National Center for Missing Exploited Children, NCMEC, and the authorities on both sides of the border during the news conference. Lynette hoped that her story would inspire other parents facing similar situations to never give up their faith. "I am the proof that after 31 long years of suffering, one should never give up," she emphasized. "Be patient, be strong, and believe that all things are possible, and that anything can transpire." Meanwhile, John Durham, Connecticut's U.S. Attorney, acknowledged and spoke about all the investigators who had worked tirelessly to bring Jermaine home after he had been taken away from his mother all those years. In an official statement in 2018, Durham asserted, "This defendant is alleged to have lived a lie for the last 31 years, in violation of numerous U.S. laws. We thank the many law enforcement agencies in the U.S. and Canada that have investigated this matter, worked hard to apprehend this fugitive, and finally provided some answers to a mother who has suffered with her son's absence for far too long. Experts have noted that Jermaine's disappearance is an exception to the rule in what is actually a surprisingly common crime. This case is believed to be the longest in North America, if possibly not the world, where an abducted child is reunited with a parent, both in a safe condition.